Here we go.
So that was just the DC showcase now. So I'm about to get into the non-spoiler review of The Flash. So like I mentioned earlier, I watched The Flash a few days ago, one of those pre-screening, advanced screenings. Now, I will mention this, that I have heard that maybe parts of the movie are not complete. So I don't know, maybe... because I do plan on watching it again next Thursday, so I'm going to watch it, so I'll compare it, but it looks like some of the CGI didn't look complete. I don't know if that's supposed to remain that way. Maybe they didn't have time for it or whatever, but I'll compare it to see if maybe we just got like an earlier cut of it for the advanced screenings, and they have a better version of it now that it's going to come out next week. So I'll let you guys know about that. So let's begin here. So we're going to do the non-spoiler review of The Flash. So again, no spoilers. I'm not going to give you guys any spoilers here because this movie hasn't come out yet. It'll come out on June 16th, or if you want to go and watch it on the Thursday nights. So again, I'm not going to get into like the issues with Ezra Miller. I mean, obviously there's some problems going on there. I'm not sure if they're going to have him... if they're going to have Ezra Miller come back as the Flash because of those issues. So with that aside, we'll just watch the movie as it is, and then that's it. That's really the way that we can move forward here. So let's get into some of those positive things here, okay? So again here, so Ezra Miller was able to carry this movie, and I was surprised because I didn't think he would. I didn't think he would be able to carry this film. He was in, obviously in the Justice League movie. They introduced him there, or they introduced them there. And I didn't dislike Ezra Miller as the Flash in Justice League. I thought he was fine. He had little quirky, funny moments there, and he was perfectly fine. I never had really any big issues with Ezra Miller, and that was obviously before the personal issues. But I still didn't think that they were actually going to have Ezra Miller play the Flash in their own solo movie. So after watching the movie, yes, Ezra Miller can carry this movie. There's a lot of good scenes with them. There's positive elements and negative elements to Ezra Miller's performance. Now that has something to do with the way the character was written, because we have one Barry Allen that's very different than another Barry Allen. Now, you've seen this in the trailer, so I'm not necessarily spoiling that there. So we have here, he was able to carry this film as the lead. And again, as mentioned, I wasn't sure he was going to be able to actually pull this off. And the reason why I say this is because his performance in the film portraying two Barry Allens, as you have seen in the trailers, the characters were different. And so much so that, well, one variation of Barry Allen leads the film, making it a positive element of the film. The other portrayal of Barry Allen was obnoxious, and it was ultimately a negative component or element of the film. And I'll get into that later when it comes to the negative sections, or the negative sections of this non-spoiler review of The Flash. But again, this is despite the fact that the other Barry Allen's annoyance was by design. So I know that the character was supposed to be this way because obviously we see Ezra Miller portray a different kind of character. Okay, so the next positive elements, the next positive component to this is, of course, Batman. All the Batman in this film. Again, if you're a big Batman fan, you're definitely going to like this. So this film has a lot of awesome Batman sequences. Both Keaton and Affleck, because at one point I was like, okay, well, we could expect Michael Keaton to do a very good scenes, because we haven't seen Michael Keaton in a while, so that will be the draw, obviously, right? So Michael Keaton, seeing him again as Batman, that will be the draw, and I'm assuming they were gonna have to show a lot of cool sequences with Keaton, and you've seen him in the trailer that there's a lot of like sequences that he looks like a badass and everything, right? So that was expected, and yes, it definitely did not disappoint. But the Ben Affleck scene as well, the Batman Ben Affleck that we see in the film, that was pretty awesome too. And I think I probably liked it a little more, and I think that bat cycle had a lot to do with it. But let's see here. So there are also cool sequences with Bruce Wayne, with Keaton stealing the spotlight many times. There's a particular action sequence with the Ben Affleck Batman riding his bat cycle in this film that is just awesome. Like, it really is awesome. And then you can see a glimpse of that scene in the trailer. But I also like it so much that I'm really considering getting that Hot Toys Affleck Batman bat cycle set, even though I have issues with the likeness of the figure, which is something I mentioned earlier. So that scene, the scenes that we see Ben Affleck as Batman and The Flash, really makes me want to get that Hot Toy figure, which I mentioned earlier. And then I obviously check out the Batman Affleck Hot Toy segment on my channel about my thoughts on that particular figure. I go into details about that one. And then we have, if you're a huge Batman fan like myself, you will love those sequences, and ultimately added so much to my enjoyment of this film, and I think a lot of you guys will like this. Okay, so that was, again, going back to the Ben Affleck. So that's the scene that I'm referring to. Now, I'm not going to mention how many sequences are there or scenes with Batman Batfleck, but because that'll be kind of spoilery. But another positive thing here, the actress' name is Sasha Calle, who portrays Supergirl. So she was pretty badass in the film, and her outfit was very cool. She has some great sequences herself in the film, and I kind of don't want to get into those details again because we're getting to spoilery territory, but she has a lot of cool scenes here, and that was one positive component, one positive element here. Okay, so I think we're gonna get into, actually there's just one more thing here that is part of the positives. So some of the humor did hit. There's also some that didn't, but some of it did hit. So that'll be a positive there. It's really up to you what you find funny. If you didn't like most of the humor from Ezra Miller and Justice League, then you probably won't find it that funny, but there were some legitimate ones that I did find funny. So I'll give you that. Okay, so we're going into the negatives. So I mentioned earlier that Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, as the lead Barry Allen, the main one, was really good in the movie. So I did like Miller there. But there's also the other Barry Allen, so also portrayed by Ezra Miller. And as I mentioned earlier, the character is obnoxious, and he even mentions this within the film. So the character himself says that, no, I'm obnoxious, something like that. And he definitely can be in the movie. But the character is vital to the story of this film, so I get it. But yes, it has its moments and just didn't hit with me when it comes to that other Barry Allen. And you've seen parts of this Barry Allen in the trailer. So yeah, sometimes it's a little too over the top. So it just really depends on what you feel, your thoughts on that. So that's a negative of the Flash non-spoiler review here. And again, I mentioned earlier the humor, sometimes it just really didn't hit. It wasn't really funny. Some parts were, but there were a lot of them that were not. Okay, so this is probably going to be like the main issue with this movie. Now, it's really hard to say because there's one particular sequence in The Flash that the CGI is just really, really bad. And I don't know if, as I mentioned earlier as well, that I don't know if it's because they were not done with this particular sequence and they just had it ready for advanced screenings to get the word out there, the good word of mouth, and they were just not done with this CGI, because that sequence that I'm thinking of, it's really, really bad. It really looks incomplete. So hopefully maybe they did fix it, and then when we actually see the movie, when it comes out next week, maybe it's done. But I'm very curious to see what it's going to look like, because I'm going to see it again. Let me just say this here. So I'm just going to read what I wrote, the notes that I wrote about this. So while there are some very good looking CGI sequences in this movie, there are some scenes that are atrocious. There's a particular sequence that looked embarrassingly bad, almost like the mustache fiasco with Henry Cavill in Justice League. It was kind of that bad. I don't know if the version we got at the advanced screenings had that sequence without it being complete, but if not, they definitely need to find a better visual effects company for future projects. Now, during the credits, I did notice that this film used multiple visual effects companies, as I'm sure is common in most movies, but this is the first time that I actually noticed that there were so many of them. So when I was watching the end credits, they kept showing like visual effects companies, and there was like several of them. This is the first time that I've actually noticed, because a lot of those comic book movies, they're heavy with CGI, and we end up watching the credits because there's usually a post credit scene, and I never really noticed that this movie had a lot of them, and there's a lot of visual effects in this movie, obviously, so there would be a lot of them. We have Matthew, who is normally part of this. He said, "Yeah, that's what I had heard. The last 30 minutes CGI cluster heck." Okay, cluster heck. Okay. Okay, but there is yeah, because it's gonna get into spoilery stuff. There's some stuff going on in the third act. Now, I'm not gonna go into spoilers, but I think it's supposed to be that way. The CGI is supposed to look a certain way. And when you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, because right now I really can't get into it because I'm gonna spoil stuff. But it looks like it's supposed to look that way when it comes to something regarding the third act. So I'm not really referring to that. And I think there's a specific reason that they went this route when it comes to the presentation of these particular sequences, without getting into spoilers. And when you see the movie, you know what I mean. So I'm not even referring to that. I'm just mainly referring to this one pretty significant big sequence in the movie that the CGI was very, very poor, like very, very bad. Future DCU Warrior Life says, someone said they were making the FX intentionally like that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The sequence that I'm talking about in the third act, it's very CGI like, very CGI, very fake looking. But I think it's supposed to be that way because, again, without me getting into spoilers, it's kind of supposed to look like that. And that's not even what I'm referring to when it comes to the bad CGI. I think it is supposed to look like that. And if I end up doing a spoiler review of this, then I'll address that. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention here. So overall, when it comes to this film, The Flash, it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. Like I mentioned earlier, Batman is my favorite, not just favorite comic book character, but I think it's my favorite character overall in general. So I was very excited to see, not just one Batman, but two Batmans or whatever the case. So I really, really liked the film. So I'll give you an overall here. So overall, the Flash film was a lot of fun, which it really was. I am watching it again on opening night because I want to see this movie again in a crowded theater. There are several cool moments in the film that I want to watch again, and I want to watch again with a crowded theater. So that's why I'm definitely want to watch this again, like right as soon as it comes out, basically. Because I already had tickets for The Flash for June 15th, that Thursday preview. Before I got the the advanced screening tickets, so I already had those tickets. So I'm gonna keep them, and I'm gonna go and watch it again. So that was The Flash, again, the non-spoiler review, and so The Flash is a see it grade A-. It's definitely higher than some of the other DCU movies that I've seen, right? So Batman vs Superman, Justice League, both versions of this Justice League weren't this high, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like the Snyder version, which is better than the first cut of Justice League. But I really did like The Flash, grade A-. see it. You know, the movie canon has the 3S system. So see it, stream it, or skip it. So The Flash is a see it. We have another comment here from Future DCU Warrior Life. It says, "Yup, I have for the 15th and 16th. Also, you have tickets for both." Okay, yes. So you're gonna watch that twice within like 24 hours or so. So yes, I'll be watching this again on the 15th. That is the plan. And let me see if there's anything else regarding The Flash. So let me know, guys, when you watch this movie, which is coming out next week. Let me know, what are your thoughts on this film? Did you like it as much as I did? Maybe you hated it. Maybe there was a lot of things with Ezra Miller that you just didn't like. The parts that I talked about when it comes to the other Barry Allen, maybe that was a deal breaker to you. Maybe you just weren't gonna like this movie because of that other Barry Allen, or just Ezra Miller alone. Maybe you're not a big Batman fan. Maybe the CGI is really that bad. And when I see the new movie the second time, maybe the CGI is still there. Maybe it's still the same, and that is the actual final project, the final entry or whatever of The Flash. But overall, I still really enjoyed the movie. Definitely watch this movie with a crowded theater, especially like the first couple of days of it coming out, like the way I'm planning on doing. So that was my non-spoiler review of The Flash.